This is the West Virginia Capitol Report. Funding for the West Virginia Capitol Report is brought to you by Mark A. Hunt and Associates and by the AFL-CIO of West Virginia.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Capitol Report. I'm Bill Laird, joined by co-host David Perry, and we're coming to you from the West Virginia State Capitol here in Charleston, the Office of the Cabinet Secretary of the Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety. And David, with two great guests today, Elaine Harris and Cabinet Secretary Jeff Sande. Corrections is the topic, and boy, they made some progress this past session of the legislature and bringing some meaningful upgrades and improvements in the field of corrections that we've worked on for a lot of years, buddy.
Definitely, Bill. As you said, I remember in our time we were trying to advocate for some of the things as far as career ladder and consolidation of services and so forth.
And again, some real good things done in the field of corrections. And again, a lot of times people don't understand that corrections is extraordinarily important to public safety in the state of West Virginia, just as much as law enforcement in a lot of ways. So again, great leadership by Secretary Jeff Sande, who really kind of, with the backing of Governor Justice, really pushed through some important legislation, and this will give us a chance to talk about some of those reforms.
And must this legislation help county budgets as well, which is in need of assistance, Bill?
And again, regional jail costs, that can be a real budget buster for our local units of government. So again, coming right up on the Capitol Report show today, Cabinet Secretary Jeff Sande, the Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety, and Elaine Harris with the Communication Workers of America. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and be right back with our guests. So stay with us, everybody.
This is the West Virginia Capitol Report. Funding for the West Virginia Capitol Report is brought to you by Mark A. Hunt and Associates and by the AFL-CIO of West Virginia.
Today's Suddenlink tip: make moving easy. Packing and moving is hard, but Suddenlink can make it a little easier with one simple phone call. When you call Suddenlink, a representative will help you transfer all your services to your new address. Suddenlink will even send a technician to set everything up. One call, one connection, and one bill. Like I said, easy.
Hi everybody, I'm Tom McGee. It's dangerous out there. If you get hurt, shift the odds in your favor. Call Mark Hunt to get your just compensation and compensation for your injury. And if you have any criminal charge or if you get a DUI, be sure to call me at 304-642-6160.
The law firm of Mark Hunt and Associates, specializing in personal injury, DUI, and criminal defense. 304-344-1800.
Dan Hill Construction Company in Glen Ferris has over 33 years of local service. With county, state, and federal and church construction experience, we can design and build any type of project that will suit your needs. Once you select us for your project, we'll supply all the tools, labor, equipment, and materials to complete your project on budget and on time. We're a zero drugs tolerance company with an excellent safety record as a bonded and insured commercial contractor with an outstanding relationship and payment record reputation with all of our subcontractors and suppliers. References available upon request. We are Dan Hill Construction Company, 9033 Midland Trail, Glen Ferris, West Virginia. 304-632-1600, license number WV001196, rated in the best top 50 government contractors in West Virginia.
This is the West Virginia Capitol Report. Funding for the West Virginia Capitol Report is brought to you by Mark A. Hunt and Associates and by the AFL-CIO of West Virginia.
Welcome back to the Capitol Report. And again, we're very pleased to be joined today by two very special guests, friends of ours. I want to welcome to the Capitol Report show Elaine Harris, who's with the Communication Workers of America, and very pleased to have with us today Cabinet Secretary of Military Affairs and Public Safety, Secretary Jeff Sande. And Guys, welcome to the Capitol Report Show, and we're here to talk a little bit about some of the major steps that have been taken, particularly following the 2018 regular session of the West Virginia Legislature. And I guess to kind of set the table, maybe we need to sort of describe a little bit of what I would call a crisis in corrections, Elaine. And I know you've worked in this area for many, many years, but the staffing situations in our state correctional institutions were such that Governor Jim Justice had to basically declare a state of emergency and look at how to properly staff and maintain our correctional institutions. But as a result of forward thinking and good legislation, it seems as if we've turned the corner on what I think has been a long chronic problem in the state of West Virginia, and that is elevating correctional officer pay to the point where that it's now competitive, and we might be successful in recruiting and retaining correctional officers in West Virginia. Is that a fair description of where we are today?
Absolutely, and major steps forward. I think, we were at a point whenever the governor did ask for the National Guard to go in and assist, and that was working in conjunction with Secretary Sandy. That happened to provide some relief because folks were just, they were tired, they were wore out. So, but a very successful session in the many years that I've been here advocating on behalf of the correctional employees in all three divisions. This has got to be a record year, and a lot of hard work went into it, and it was great to partner with the Secretary and the folks and the men and women that are on the front lines each and every day to see this all happen.
No doubt about it. And again, Secretary Sandy, first of all, congratulations for that successful passage of that legislation. And I guess for purposes of our viewers, obviously like to think that we're perhaps beginning to see some of the benefits to be derived in terms of seeking to address that problem. Can you give us a little update on maybe what has transpired since the legislative session and where we are going forward from here?
Absolutely, Sheriff. We were in 2016, for every one correction officer we hired, 2 quit. In 2018, since the passage of the pay raise bill, for every 2 that we're hiring, only 1 is resigning. To date, since the passage of the bill, we have received 464 applications. We've interviewed 315, and out of that 315, we have hired 254 correction officers, which is amazing.
Wow.
As you've had those, Mr. Secretary, of course, prior to that, Bill and I had undertaken the task in the lane of overtime pay. How has this affected overtime pay, or how will it affect, or how do you project it will affect overtime pay in terms of positions?
Without question, we want to reduce the amount of overtime pay. But right now, we had 600 openings as of the beginning of this calendar year. And with that money, in addition to the overtime funds you're making reference to, we had to pay, per the emergency order signed by the governor, for average of 55 to 92 West Virginia National Guard members who have worked in our facility. The goal is to reduce the amount of overtime the citizens of West Virginia that they're paying now.
I guess it might be helpful to our viewers if we can perhaps refresh their memory on exactly what this legislation called for in terms of a pay package. And Elaine, I think we may even be able to put up a graphic that sort of describes a little bit of the progression. I think this is something that's going to be phased in over a couple of years, and sort of builds the opportunity for those salaries to be adjusted in the upward direction. Can you sort of refresh our memory a little bit about what this does?
Right, we had the bill that provided over a 3-year period, 2000, 2000, and 2000. And so we very actively, we all worked on that with legislators, the governor's office, and working with Cabinet Secretary. we worked that bill and, to see through passage of it. At the same time, whenever the other areas, both teachers, service personnel, and troopers, and other public employees, at the end of the day, when other public employees ended up with a 5% pay increase, we brought forth a little bit of history back in 2007. I think you'll recall whenever we had a similar multi-year pay increase, that should also include any, not to exclude any across-the-board pay increases. So working with the executive, working with legislators in the House and the Senate, we were able to get that done as well. And that just added a major piece to what we were trying to do to get those monies up. And also, this increase will have for all of the staff, officers, and what I always refer to as the support staff, because they were relieving and are relieving posts. And we've always likened it to a big puzzle. And all of those pieces are so critically important in the area of public safety, in the field of corrections, to make it all work. It's a team. And so we'll be able to work through with those folks with the additional 5% in addition to the $2,000 for each of the 3 years. And there is a graphic that shows that, and it's very good. And I think there's a commitment to continue to stay the course, and we believe legislators have been educated and shown by visits to these facilities and information that has been provided through research that we will be able to make a strong case going forward.
That's for sure. Secretary Sandy, again, I want to talk a little bit. I know, building a career progression is, I think, something that is incredibly important as far as, long-term. People want to, rather than take a job in the short term, if they can feel as if they've joined an organization that has the opportunity to advance and progress, both in pay and rank and responsibility. I know that's something that's certainly important to you, and if you maybe can just tell us a little bit about that progression part of what we've been able to do with the corrections.
I appreciate that question. Interviewing individuals that have left corrections over the past 15 months is they stated, Sheriff, that there was no future for them in corrections. And we needed to take that issue and address it. And right now, in front of the Department of Personnel, we have a career plan in place that we believe that will be passed. And that career plan allows that individual that is considering coming to corrections as a profession for that individual to see where they will be 6 years from now. Not only that, but one of the things that has made the West Virginia State Police successful is that they get $500 a year for each year of service. So we did not want our corrections officers to be stagnant. So they will receive, once they reach the rank of sergeant, they will receive $500 a year for the rest of their career.
Well, that's good stuff. And again, I think that sometimes, a pay increase can be sort of an incremental step in putting a hot patch and solving something until it's time for the next pay increase. But things like career paths, those I think certainly hold with it the opportunity to bring permanent solutions to a great field such as corrections. And again, for anybody out there watching this program that may have an interest in the field of corrections, we obviously want to encourage folks to take advantage of those opportunities. How does anybody watching this broadcast that maybe is considering corrections, how do you go about getting in the mix and advancing an employment application?
Okay, I will handle that without question. If you go to the West Virginia Department of Corrections website, it will give you the email addresses, the forms, and the telephone numbers to call. And it is a easy application. We do a background investigation on you and to make sure that you are not a convicted felon. But it is a wonderful opportunity, and we encourage you to go to the website and learn about a career in corrections.
That's good, and we would certainly encourage people watching this show that may have that interest to do exactly that. There's a number of other things that I think are very important that we'd like to have the opportunity to talk about. There's some things as far as consolidation in terms of some of the things in the field of corrections in West Virginia that I think came about as a result of the recently completed legislative session, in addition to a number of the other issues currently facing the Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and be right back with our guest today, Secretary of Military Affairs and Public Safety Jeff Sandy, and our good friend Elaine Harris with the Communication Workers of America. So we're going to go ahead and take a break and be right back. So stay with us, everybody.
This is the West Virginia Capitol Report. Funding for the West Virginia Capitol Report is brought to you by Mark A. Hunt and Associates and by the AFL-CIO of West Virginia.
Hi everybody, I'm Tom McGee. It's dangerous out there. If you get hurt, shift the odds in your favor. Call Mark Hunt to get your just compensation and compensation for your injury. And if you have any criminal charge, or if you get a DUI, be sure to call me at 304-642-6160.
The law firm of Mark Hunt and Associates, specializing in personal injury, DUI, and criminal defense. 304-344-1800.
From under the Gold Dome in Charleston, this is the West Virginia Capitol Report.
Welcome back to the Capitol Report, where Dave Perry and I are joined by our guests today, Elaine Harris with the Communication Workers of America and Jeff Sandy, the Secretary of Military Affairs and Public Safety. And I want to shift gears a little bit and get into another area extraordinarily important to the citizens of the state of West Virginia. And Mr. Secretary, there was legislation this past session that provided a real opportunity to do some reorganization and reconfiguration within the Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety. And again, when you look at those areas of responsibility, the Regional Jail and Correctional Facility Authority, the Department of Corrections, Division of Juvenile Service, a little bit of common denominators there, but yet heretofore those had really been separate and segregated departments in government. And I think as a result of, again, forward thinking, some adjustments have been made and some real opportunities there. Could you maybe bring us up to date and refresh our recollection a little bit about that legislation this past session?
Excellent question. The governor made a simple request: run the state of West Virginia like a business. Our 3 correctional units, we had 3 individuals ordering pens and pencils, paper to vans. We did not need that. The consolidation per House Bill 4338 will allow us to be more efficient for the citizens of West Virginia. To give you an example, the medical, mental, and dental for all 3 correction agencies over the past 3 years is over $120 million. By going out soliciting bids for those contracts, we feel, based on our conversations with universities across the United States, that we should be able to save an 8%. That 8% is over $3 million, sir. The food contracts to ordering vans, the consolidation will allow us to be more efficient, sir.
real opportunities there. And Elaine, I know you've worked with regional jails a lot over the years. Pretty important issue for counties. Counties are always challenged to try to balance their budgets, and again, the per diem costs that are charged to our local units of government, a real impact piece as far as local budgeting goes. From your perspective, reorganization drives certain economies, cost savings, pretty important local issue also.
It does, and we want to work with our counties. We're all citizens of these counties, and when we went out to seek increases, especially for the employees that work in the regional jails, that is all a part of that per diem that is paid, by the counties to regional jail authority. So anything that you can help maintain, or in some cases even look to lower the cost of per diem, or stay the same, as I said, maintain, that's helpful because the counties have budgets too. And so it's efficiencies are good. That's one thing that I think we all need to be more cognizant of, because it is the taxpayers' dollars, whether it's at a county level, state level, or federal level. So I think, as we've looked and seen, and this has really been dissected to look at everything there is within these three agencies as they run. And we've heard from employees. They want to see more efficiencies, because at the end of the day, if it in some way provides a way to make things better for them, they are on board.
Our per diem costs to counties, good efforts have been made in the past to control those costs and hold those down. But again, I guess this is just a further opportunity to create situations where we can keep those costs down to counties.
That is correct, sir. The West Virginia Department of Revenue last week provided us with their review of what the actual cost of per diem should be for West Virginia counties, and that figure was $53.20. This bill, House Bill 4338, caps at $48.25, I believe, and as a result, over the next 3 years, that will save the West Virginia counties in the millions, sir. In fact, with the implementation of the on July 1st of 19, the commitment date versus the sentencing date, this bill will save the counties during the next 3 years $41 million, sir.
Wow.
Of course, we're not talking about millions, Mr. Secretary, but I know there's some other things you have on the horizon that would save taxpayers money, and that money, as Elaine has said, could be returned back to employees in the system, such as this special session. I think there's a discussion of a small item that may save money.
Absolutely, sir. When Governor Justice called me on December 21st of 2016, he stated, "What's your vision?" And I advised him that we were one of the few states in the United States that did not have all of our military affairs and public safety employees working together. And obviously this is very important in time of an emergency. And as a result, we started doing work into, can we build a DMAPS facility? General Hoyer with the West Virginia National Guard has advised the governor's office and myself that he would supply the land. And we obtained the House passed today approval, but we need Senate. But we asked for $55,000 to do preliminary blueprints to build a state-of-the-art DMAPS building that will help us in times of national and state emergency.
Wow.
That's great.
That's, and again, for our viewers, the Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety, in terms of the scope of your duties and responsibilities, those things within the mission statement of your department, the National Guard, I guess, Office of Emergency Services, Homeland Security, just a lot of different interagency responsibilities there, and so is this something that could potentially integrate those non-correctional components of military affairs in a common structure?
Absolutely, Sheriff. And to give you an example, we're already starting to implement those items. For example, the West Virginia National Guard had a 24-hour call center. Homeland Security had a 24-hour call center. Corrections had a 24 call center. And we have already implemented consolidating those 3 call centers. So rather than 6 employees working 24 hours a day, we can do it with 2, sir.
Yeah, that's, as they say, that's good stuff, folks, because that just is a giant step forward. And again, congratulations on advancements such as that. And again, just to talk a little bit about some of the other areas of your responsibilities, the West Virginia National Guard. My goodness, what a I think it's a source of pride of everybody in the state of West Virginia. You know, we've had we can control a lot of things, but Mother Nature is not one of them. And when I think of their response, their incident management duties in dealing with crises after crises in West Virginia, they answer that call to service always front and center, and just a wonderful organization that does a great job for West Virginia. I know you're proud of the West Virginia National Guard.
Absolutely, Sheriff. When I was a federal agent in Baghdad, and you mentioned I'm from West Virginia, the first thing they say is the West Virginia National Guard. Not only is it the pride of West Virginia, but also the pride is instilled all across the world.
No doubt about it. And again, you know, you're blessed to be surrounded by some good, solid department heads. I know, you know, you certainly provide that leadership, but you've got some good folks working for you, sir.
I agree with you 100%, and today at 3 o'clock, we're going to make our legislators, they're going to hear that again, sir.
Okay, well, they can hear that again and again as far as I'm concerned. But Elaine, again, I know it's, you get a lot of satisfaction when you work at a problem and finally you punch through. In retrospect, you've been at this quite some time, but hey, the right solution came, the right commitment, leadership, vision, it kind of all sort of met in the same intersection this past legislative session.
Yes, it did. And, you know, sitting here amongst 2 former co-chairs of the Oversight Committee that worked with us through some of those things, it's I know it's got to be a proud moment for you all too, because you had the passion. And you know, a lot of good things can happen when you get a team, you get folks together, and you're determined to working together. And I just have to say that happened, and very, very proud of what happened. So, and I, you know, think it's important also as we all, as a part of the team, work together in this recruitment, that there are information available, that you have information available that can be put up later to show the process of how, as the Secretary mentioned previously, to go online and submit application, but also have some more additional information that can be shared with the viewers. I think just a lot of good stuff there, and if the interest is there, there's opportunities.
No doubt. We'll get those graphics put up during this show. And again, we want to thank our special guests, Secretary of Military Affairs and Public Safety, Jeff Sandy, and Lane Harris with Communication Workers of America for joining us here today on the Capitol Report. So, on behalf of my co-host Dave Perry, I'm Bill Laird, thanking you all for tuning us in. Have a good week, and goodbye, everybody.